prior to the fellowship, I was a professor of human-computer interaction at the Open University, and I had my own lab. And we were carrying our research in the wild, looking at how we could design technology interventions and then put them out there in the real world. And one of our research areas was behavioural change. So how could we change people's behaviour for certain values they cared about? And for example, one was about exercise and fitness, and how might we nudge people to change their behaviour? And then the opportunity arose to apply for the fellowship. I was asked by someone at another university.
Can you give us a little hint about the things that you've carried out during your fellowship?
Yes, I mean, I think my vision was to rethink our relationship with technology. And I took a user group that I never worked with before, which is the aged, and to think very differently about how we design technology for aging. So rather than the conventional approach, which is to think of technology as a prosthetic device to design for frailty, I actually wanted to empower and engage older people with technology. And so I spent a lot of time on my Dream Fellowship, first of all, understanding what aging is, and then thinking about what the technology is around us. I went to MIT and other places where they are very much leading researchers in future technologies. But I also, as part of the Dream Fellowship, brought in thinking about creativity very differently. And so I looked at the process of cooking and dining and how chefs engage with creativity to inspire me to think about this, rethinking the relationship between the aged and new technology for them.
Perhaps just tell me something more about what the aim of the cooking bit was.
The cooking part was to observe chefs about how they use resources, both digital and physical, to inspire themselves to think about new recipes and new dining experiences. And in some ways, it's actually got me a bit distracted in that I got very interested in thinking about new technologies for them. But it also has got me thinking about how do we combine different ingredients, physical and digital, and how do we use social media. And it's broadened out how I think about creativity with technology and using a variety of different ingredients, both digital and physical.
And did you eat the food?
I never cooked.
Oh.
I spent a lot of time with chefs, winemakers, choreographers. So it wasn't just cooking. I started to broaden out to look at artisans and talk to them a lot. I shadowed them, and they did invite me to their restaurants and to go and see their dance. So I didn't actually do any cooking myself, but I learnt a lot about how they are creative in the moment.
Can you perhaps tell me something about how your fellowship changed the way you do your research?
Absolutely. I've actually had time to run workshops with some new toolkits when I was in Australia with friends of, I'm calling them retired people rather than elderly, who are in their 60s, their 70s, 80s and even 90s, and getting them to be playful and to be inventive themselves, to think of the future of technology, not just for themselves, but for other people in society. And that got me thinking that anyone can be creative, anyone can be inventive, so long as we can design toolkits or materials for them to do that with. And that we've often excluded people, and that what we've tried to do is design on their behalf, that we want to try and help them. And I think that my thinking has really changed to shifting about how we might provide them with toolkits that they can then take on board and be creative with themselves and come up with new ideas. So it's really shifted my thinking about how we work with different user groups.
And what about plans beyond the fellowship? What will happen when the fellowship finishes?
Sadly, the fellowship will come to an end, but I think it has, I've been recharged with lots of energy, and I think it will continue in terms of how it influences how I write research proposals, but also how I think about problems and how I engage the communities. I'm also now working in a centre that's funded by Intel, looking at sustainable and connected cities, and that's very much influenced my thinking about how we engage the urban citizen from the very young to the very old, in very much thinking about what kinds of technology we want to be designing and why we're doing that. So yes.